Shiites in violent protest in Abuja. President Buhari orders security chiefs to get on top of the situation.
Vice President Oshibajo receives Defense College Course 27 report on security and defense management.
Head of Service advocates right training to meet the needs of today's civil and public service.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on assessing Nigeria's food security, plus a review of AFCON 2019.
Nigeria's participation in the Continental Football Fiesta Kingsley dates back to the year 1973 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And guess what? The team got its placement to thrill their fans and supporters as well as clinching the bronze medal.
Well, we fast forward to the field of play to 2019, and then Nigeria shows up again at its 32nd edition of the African Cup of Nations tournament as one of the favorites. The NTA, that's the Nigerian Television Authority, made good its promise to beam live the soccer fiesta from the beginning to the end.
Absolutely, Kingsley. The nation was conspicuously missed in past two consecutive outings, the last appearance being in 2003. So this
13,
return, 13.
That's right, with Nigeria.
This return no doubt reignited the zest in players and showed up greater interest from their fans as well as many stakeholders all over.
Such it was for the other teams, as the very best of players gathered from the participating 24 nations to slug it out in the Continental Football Tourney and Supremacy, of course, which lasted for 1 month. At the end, the Eagles, that's the Super Eagles of Nigeria, soared. At some point, they also wobbled and then flew high again, and unfortunately settled for the bronze medal.
Quite right, Kingsley. Nigeria is a 3-time winner. Sure had her own strategy, but we also have the match played out for the different nations' outings. So we ask, just how satisfactory is African football, judging from teams' performance at this edition in Egypt?
Okay, now from the perspective of the pundits, what were the shocking upsets and which of the teams, as it were, turned out to be surprises of the tournament? And in particular, for us in Nigeria, what do we need to do differently in order to secure a spot for the next tournament, which comes up in 2 years' time, just as Cameroon, which will host that tournament, is making preparations already. All of this will be brought to the fore as we do a post-mortem of the just concluded African Cup of Nations 2019 that took place in Egypt.
You know, Kingsley, football reinvention is not only our only preoccupation today on Good Morning Nigeria. In fact, when we secure this other aspect, talking about Nigeria's food security, we will play well to achieve further development on the nation and international scene.
Well, I don't think the Super Eagles necessarily were hungry, so well, they were hungry for laurels.
Special diet.
Special diet,
Yes.
Well, they were hungry for laurels, as it were. Nigeria is as notably and widely acknowledged as a country with vast agricultural potentials, but just how aligned are our food security measures? Pertinent question to ask.
Yeah, certainly, you know, Kingsley, food is a necessity, is a basic means of survival. It will also augur well as a socio-economic boost for the nation's development, if only we harness what we have in terms of production and attendant value chain variables. Where and what are the greatest threats to the nation's food security quest? That's the question we need to ask.
That's right, that's right. And we can also ask the question how we are walking the talk on the many agricultural policies and frameworks that we have in existence, and what more would the agricultural sector require to better support Nigeria's economic diversification agenda. Of course, we're talking about an assessment of Nigeria's food security with all the inputs and variables that will come up for conversation later on in the course of the program. So on that note, we'd like to welcome you to another edition of Good Morning Nigeria. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Jummai Yusuf. It's always good to have you join us on the program on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We are broadcasting live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. As always, we will bring you the complimentary parts of the program. These include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign and entertainment news. But first, here's the highlights with Usman Aliu. Good morning. Osman.
And good morning, Jummai and Kingsley. This is the news. The Nigeria Police Force has confirmed the shooting and eventual death of the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations, FCT Command, DCP Usman A.K. Umar, during the violent protest by members of the El Zakzaki group involving over 30,000 of its followers. A statement by the police also confirmed the shooting of 2 assistant superintendents of police who sustained serious injuries and are currently receiving treatment. Channels Television has also confirmed the death of its reporter, Precious Olabi, a youth corps member who died of gun wounds sustained in the crossfire during the violent confrontation between the police and Shiites in Abuja on Monday. The police says it has arrested 54 suspects in connection with the incident. The suspects are undergoing interrogation and will be arraigned in court as soon as possible. In the meantime, the Nigeria Police and the Department of State Services have given marching orders to respond appropriately to the violent demonstrations by members of the Shiite Islamic movement in the nation's capital. President Muhammad Buhari gave the order after summoning the National Security Advisor, Inspector General of Police, and the Director General of the Department of State Services over the renewed acts of hostility by the group. The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, told NTA News after the closed-door meeting that the President engaged them on the security situation on the way forward.
We briefed him on the activities of Islamic movement of Nigeria. The incessant coming out of this group of people protesting here and there, and we briefed him on the fact that we've been able to curtail their excesses.
And away from security issues, Nigeria and a German consortium, Siemens, have signed an implementation agreement towards dramatically improving the quantity and quality of power supply in the country for sustainable growth and development of the economy. President Muhammad Buhari, who presided over the ceremony, said fixing the power sector as a key priority of his administration is a task that must be done.
This project will not be the solution to all our problems in the power sector. However, I am confident that it has the potential to address a significant amount of the challenges we have faced for decades.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo this Monday received a delegation of Nigerian National Defense College Course 27 led by the Commandant Rear Admiral Maxon Kadri. The delegation was in the presidential villa to present a report of the Higher Defense Management and Strategic Studies research by Course 27 participants to the Vice President. While commending the participants, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo notes that President Muhammadu Buhari is greatly concerned about ensuring the recharging and revitalization of the Lake Chad Basin so as to effectively tackle the issues of security, livelihood, and development of the region. The relationship between political party and its caucus in parliament is strategic to achieving campaign manifestos. That is why the President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, says All Progressives Congress caucus in the Senate will work in collaboration with its party at all levels. Senator Lawan was speaking when he met with the state chairman of All Progressives Congress.
We are one government. We are one people. We have the same program, really. The executive and the legislature in this respect, with dominance of the APC in the Senate, and the executive being an APC administration. We have just one course, we are supposed to have one focus, and we are supposed to have one direction.
A unified procedure for the formulation and implementation of government policies and programs at all levels will enhance good governance. This is the central idea during discussions at the follow-up meeting of the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation with secretaries to the state governments and heads of cabinet affairs offices of states in the Northeast Zone held in Gombe.
It is clear that the strategic role of the Cabinet Affairs Office in supporting the effective delivery of government policies, programs, and projects.
and the need for a robust civil and public service that will meet the training needs of workers has been advocated. This was a retreat for top management staff in Abuja.
Be able to get the new thinking in the service to cascade down to every single civil servant is something we are working on, a very elaborate and detailed communication strategy.
And that's the news highlights for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Jumai, but after this break.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold, and it's that little jolt that you feel is the hot or the cold getting to the nerve of the tooth, causing that discomfort. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to get inside the tooth and calm the nerve of the tooth down. It has years of research behind it. It works.
Relieve tooth sensitivity with Sensodyne Daily Care 40 milligrams for just 350 Naira only.
Are you aware that your perfect family may be under threat by germs? Germs can cause infectious diseases like diarrhea, typhoid, and flu. These infectious diseases are amongst the biggest killers of adults and children. In Nigeria, tens of thousands of children under the age of 5 have died due to diarrhea caused by germs, which could easily have been prevented. These illness-causing germs are everywhere. Dirty surfaces, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes, in unclean bathing water. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's 1 capful. For surface cleaning, for first aid, for your laundry, in your bathing water, and to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure.
NTA Television College Jos announces admissions into 2-year diploma programs in film and television production, television engineering, and broadcast journalism. The sale of forms will commence on the 13th of May and run through 30th July 2019. Admission forms can be obtained from all marketing offices, NTA state capital stations, zonal centers, or at the office of the academic secretary, NTA Television College, Rayfield, Jos.
On payment of a non-refundable fee of 7,500 Naira in bank draft in favor of NTA TV College. Applicants can also obtain the forms through the NTA TV College portal at www.ntatvc.edu.nj.
Applicants are required to possess 5 credits in GCE or SSCE in relevant areas of study in not more than 2 sittings, including English and mathematics. All properly completed forms attached with photocopies of credentials must be submitted on or before 30th July 2019. For further inquiries, please visit our website at ntatvc.com or call 0803 3144 383.
NTA TV College, training you to be the best you want to be.
Registrar, Announcer.
Helen!
Hey, where's your mom?
Today is her toilet day.
What?
Helen!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow you're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with all this, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible!
Challenge? New Tika Harpic 10X. Even if you use this solution 10 times, it won't give you the same cleaning like Harpic. Its new Tika formulation sticks to the bowl better, removes old stains, and gives you a sparkling clean toilet.
Wow!
New Harpic 10X
gives me the freedom from toilet day.
New Harpic 10X for 10 times better cleaning.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria. Time for us now to take some business stories. With sub-Saharan Africa expected to stay on the path of recovery, and an employment generation expert is tasking the federal government on the provision of an enabling environment. Let's join our correspondent, Kunle Adeyeye, for details of these stories.
An economic survey suggests that the sub-Saharan Africa will stay on its recovery path next year, provided economic giants are on course. A poll of 15 analysts and economists by Reuters showed that Nigeria, Africa's biggest economy, is projected to grow by 2.6% next year, while Kenya is also projected to grow by 5.8%, with both being 0.2 percentage points slower than in April. In another development, as developing countries continue to struggle with the limited capacity to create jobs, the Director General, National Directorate of Employment, Nasiru Muhammad Ladan, says governments only need to create an enabling environment while the private sector and entrepreneurs will provide the much required employment. He says being an entrepreneur is a reliable tool for closing the unemployment gap.
What we are thinking of is not just to create jobs within. We are trying to learn from Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and Philippines, whereby we can export labor to any hard currency for this country.
And to the capital market, where the Nigeria Stock Exchange All-Share Index on Monday closed on a negative note. The market depreciated by 0.40% to close at 27,808.69 basis points, with market capitalization of 13.5 trillion naira. 285.7 million shares worth 2.2 billion naira exchanged hands in 3,887 deals. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Many thanks, Kunle, for the business package. Up next on Good Morning Nigeria is the newspaper review.
Newspaper reviewer Bayo Toyebe is right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Jume. Good morning, Nigeria.
How's the rain?
Rainy
morning.
This is the season.
Yes.
Farmers are happy, and it's consistent now, not when it was on and off, which led to a lot of losses.
Yes, exactly. So today we're starting the newspaper review with the Leadership newspaper. Just below the masthead, FG signs electricity deal with Siemens, which rather targets 11,000 megawatts by 2023 to deploy biogas for power generation. And the bold headlines there, very unfortunate situation yesterday. Police El-Zazaki followers clash. Deputy Police Commissioner, journalist, 5 others killed. We find that on page 4. With the rider, 2 ASPs injured. Police arrest 54 suspects. We lost 11 members. That's coming from the Shiite sect. And PMB summons the Inspector General of Police. And just beside the picture message there, Boko Haram has been caged, says Chief of Air Staff. Army hands over 151 repentant insurgents over to Borno State government. And at the bottom plate of the Leadership newspaper, court orders police to provide evidence against Senator Abu. You find that on page 2. Stock market cap rises to 13.2 trillion in HI. PMB would protect Indibu, Uzodima. You find that on page 23. DIG takes over Koza Pastor's investigation. That's on page 6.
All right. The lead story for the New Telegraph newspaper comes with a kicker. Shiites' bloody protest. DCP, that's Deputy Commissioner of Police, channels television reporter, and 11 protesters killed in Abuja with 4 riders. To that headline, 2 ASPs, that's Assistant Superintendents of Police, 30 others injured. Police arrest 54 Shiites, and NEMA response post, an ambulance and vehicle burnt. Injured members were arrested on hospital beds. Details can be found on pages 8 and 9. And you can see the composite photographs there from the scene of the riot yesterday by the Shiite members in Abuja, right in the Central Business District. Some security personnel evacuating one of the victims of the violent protest by the Shiites. And you can see up in flames the NEMA vehicles on a post near the Federal Secretariat, as well as the unfortunate victim, that's the Deputy Commissioner of Police, the late Usman Umar. That is his photograph there. Bayo, let's take this story first, and then we'll come back to the others.
The violence yesterday is coming 13 days after the same group protested to the National Assembly a consequence of which it turned violent, and police vehicle and other citizens' vehicles were set ablaze. Security personnel and Shia members also were seriously injured. Police made arrests and also announced a restraint of all protests to the Unity Fountain. First spokesman, DCP Frank Mba, says that yesterday's violent protest was involving 3,000 members of the Shia group. There were fatalities, and unfortunately, as a senior officer of the police who was shot, unfortunately later on is reported to have died at the hospital. A staff of a television station was also among those that were shot. Security personnel and other members of Shiite also secured injuries. Meanwhile, 2 vehicles of the National Emergency Agency, Mobile Intensive Care Unit and Response Intervention Van, very expensive vehicles, were set up just adjacent to the Federal Secretariat. First spokesman said that 54 arrests of members of the Shias have been made. The Inspector General of Police visited the injured personnel at the hospital and later on also visited the State House to brief President Muhammadu Buhari. The President charged the Inspector General of Police to provide security for all residents in Abuja and all over the country. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police has reiterated its 24 hours surveillance to the AIGs for FCT as well as all contiguous states to Abuja, and it has reiterated that police will not accept any breakdown of law and order. Meanwhile, the other story about power, Nigeria has signed the electricity roadmap agreement.
Before you get into the power story, I think it's most unfortunate what happened yesterday. And as you said, coming just about a fortnight after an earlier protest also turned violent at the National Assembly. It's obvious that the Shia protesters are right in the city of Nigeria's capital territory. And if you were just to take an overview of the horrendous losses that occurred yesterday, it tells you that something has to be done, and done urgently, with regard to the frequency of their protests and the demands that they are making, or whatever else needs to be sorted out. The DCP, that's the Deputy Commissioner of Police, was said to have been interceding. I think he was said to have been speaking with the protesters, trying to calm them down, to peace. And unfortunately, he became a victim. Well, of course, the Channels television reporter, a youth corps member, was on assignment, and unfortunately, she took a bullet in the stomach. And now she's passed on. Plus, of course, what you just said with regard to the other ASPs and others who were injured, these were persons who went out for their normal businesses. And they are either on the hospital bed now or nursing one injury or the other. Then the vehicles belonging to NEMA. These are very, very expensive utility vehicles.
Colossal damage.
Yes, colossal losses that they have suffered. You utilize their ambulance, they use them for rescue measures and so on and so forth. And the location of the protest, Federal Secretariat, where you have the 3 phases of the Federal Secretariat, plus the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. How do you expect federal workers whose offices are located in those places to go to work, or to be at work and then be at peace and be able to perform their function and feel safe and perform their functions? One of the 3 armed zones.
These Shiites people, I think they just don't come in from the outskirts. I believe they are right in the middle of Abuja. Such a large crowd coming out should be noticed before they even get to their destination.
They are organized, they are youths, young men and women, sometimes even involving children.
Yes.
The danger here is that each time they come out, it doesn't end peacefully. They say they come out for peaceful protest, but it never ends peacefully. When you have a protest that involves exchange of gunfire, certainly that is not peaceful demonstration. And something has to be done. Yes, there is a fundamental right to protest, but there's no right to resort to violent protest. And protest that takes life, either of even the Shiite members or security agents or innocent Nigerian citizens who are going about their normal duties, is not ideal for a society. Something has to be done to stem this.
And they say they are not armed. So how was
the danger here is this? If we go back just to about 4.5 years ago, This is how Yusuf Mohammed and his group started
10
in
years.
Maiduguri.
10
years ago.
Deja vu, actually.
Yes,
That's just
10 years ago in the Maiduguri metropolis. And gradually, from there, they went under into the bush, and we have a big monster in our hands.
Yeah, we just hope
And
that
they're still
all of
way,
this can be sorted out as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Right,
Well, I was talking about the power
situation.
The electricity situation, there's now a roadmap based on an agreement signed between Siemens of Germany and the federal government of Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari says that this is a government-to-government agreement, and interestingly, it was reached between the president and the chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, when she visited last August. And the implication of this, from the agreement that was signed yesterday, is that 7,000 megawatts of reliable power will be provided between now and 2021, and in the second phase, 11,000 megawatts of power is to be attained by the year 2023. By the end of the second phase, if everything goes on smooth as it is expected, transmission and distribution bottlenecks will have been removed, and another target that will take it to 25,000 megawatts will have been reached subsequently. This is a deal that is stricken between government to government level, and is sure that this time around it will work and with smooth sail. The Director General of the Bureau for Public Enterprise signed on behalf of the federal government, while the Chief Executive of Siemens, a German firm, signed on behalf of that company. We hope that this will work with the GENCOs, the TRANSCOs, and everybody, and we will move our power situation forward from the 5,000 it is now.
Well, but I think it's good to be hopeful with regard to this new deal struck between the Nigerian government and Germany, and of course bringing in Siemens. Siemens has always been in Nigeria, by the way. But my only concern is there's virtually no sector in which we do not have a roadmap, or for which we do not have a roadmap. The problem has always been how you travel on that road. And, you know, if a few kilometers down the road, or if you like, a few milestones, and then, you know, the vehicle packs up and everybody loses their way. So it's most unfortunate that this always happened. And we do hope now that they will take care of all of this. Perhaps part of what is required to be done, if you ask me, before some of these agreements are signed, maybe they did it this time, put down the framework or the roadmap, and then get in all whose voices are important, they call them stakeholders, and ask them why this roadmap will not work. You start from the negative. Why will it not work? Let everybody make their contributions. So from those contributions, you can now sift out what the necessary pathways could then be. Because you get this roadmap now, you will be hearing people in TCN, you will be hearing people, the DISCOs, you will be hearing the GENCOs. Say generation is not our problem. Gas supply is vandalization of our pipelines. And then the GENCOs or DISCOs say, look, no, this is a private entity. This was signed between BPE and Siemens. So what will be the role of the DISCOs? They are private entities. Some people will tell you that the problem is not necessarily generation now, but it's transmission. So will Siemens take over from TCN, or will it complement TCN? Will Siemens also now be doing the work of the DISCOs? They've given the example of Egypt. Oh, this was what they did in Egypt. Fine. I mean, Iraq was reduced to rubble, you know, when Bush, you know, Bush II was trying to remove Saddam Hussein. But see how they were able to regenerate their power system back on track. So what worked, you know, for a war-torn country or a war-ravaged country, and what worked for Egypt, those models are not likely to work for us here. You know, we have all kinds of obstacles. That's why I say that, yeah, we can be hopeful, but you have to seek out what will not work and then ensure that you remove those obstacles.
I think identifying the bottlenecks, as we have suggested, is the ideal thing. And also, there must be time lag. What set phases, what you intend to achieve within a specific period, so that we know how far you are succeeding as time goes on, so that we don't have 2021 running down on us, and the target has not been achieved.
Yeah. But let me take your other headlines very quickly. Yes. You can return to that. Below the nameplate of New Telegraph, it's a presidency, that's New Telegraph. How we spent $1 billion on military equipment, that's page 6. And Clark, that's Chifike Clark to Gbajabiamila, House can't shut down Edo Assembly. And controversy over Mieti Allah's vigilante group in Ondo, details on page 10. CBN confirms licensing 3 new banks, Titan Trust, Globus, and Taj. Details of that story, of those stories, can be found on page 30. And secondly, story right at the foot of the front page of the New Telegraph, below those photographs from the Shiite protest yesterday in Abuja. Supreme Court dashes APC's hope on Zamfara. PDP and governors commend Apex Court's refusal to reverse serve. Details on page 2. High blood sugar damages blood vessels. That's a health story on page 10.
Yes, indeed. The Supreme Court yesterday rejected an application seeking it to review its own judgment, and an application by the APC urging a second look at its May 24th judgment, sort of the Apex Court to order a fresh elections. However, the court observed that it had no jurisdiction over a matter that is pre-election and which ought to have been brought within 60 days of the decision delivered. Justice Rose Vival was categorical. We don't sit on appeal over our own decisions. It is an abuse asking the Apex Court to review its own judgment or orders. Meanwhile, also at Bauchi at the court, the Bauchi State High Court has ordered factional speaker Danladi Kaule and deputy to continue presiding pending the determination of a motion that has been brought before it. Justice Muazu Abubakar fixed October 3rd for hearing motion and substantive application filed by Speaker and 11 members. Respondents include the National Assembly, Speaker of House of Representatives, as well as Inspector General of Police, Commissioner of Police. Meanwhile, the head of service of the Federation has drawn attention that the senior staff union are hampering the conclusion for arrangements that is supposed to see to the consequential adjustment of the new minimum wage. Mrs. Winifred Oyo-Ita says that their unrealistic demand is the cause of the breakdown of negotiations to the implementation of the new minimum wage. And what are the demands? The Joint National Public Service Negotiation Council says that the federal government offered 9.5% for grade level 7 to 14 and 5% for grade level 15 to 17. But the Joint Negotiation Public Service Negotiation Team says if they go by that, an officer on grade level 7, step 8, for instance, will only have 5,139 as an increase. However, if they have left it at the 66.6%, the increase will have been 16,230. Similarly, those on level 17, step 8, will have only an increase of 22,056 naira, as opposed to what they will have had 88,226. And therefore, the labor is now asking for 30% for those on level 7 to 17 and 25% from those on level 15 to 17. And the federal government negotiating party says that this demand is far above the budgetary provision that has been made in the national budget, and the government cannot afford that.
Okay,
so
now,
that is the cause of the stalemate now.
Now let's go to the editorial. It's coming from the Daily Sun newspaper. It's all about the murder of Nigerians in South Africa.
Yes, there is a development. Before I go to that, can I quickly draw attention to what India did yesterday? They have a low-cost rocket launched in India and is heading for the moon, and they hope that by September it will land on the moon. And the Indian Prime Minister has told the world that all things being equal, if they succeed, India will hopefully put a manned rocket onto the moon by the year 2022. Now the editorial. The editorial is happening on the issue that has been very current, the killing of Nigerians in South Africa. And the editorial is saying that the number of Nigerians that have been killed in South Africa in the last 30 months is about 130. And comparatively, it is the highest number of Nigerians killed anywhere in the world for any specific period. Initiatives have been made to draw attention to it. Specifically, the editorial has harped on the remarks by the Senate President, particularly when he invited the South African High Commissioner and emphasized categorically Nigeria will not take its citizens being killed. Similarly, the Diaspora Commission has also emphasized that Nigerians who are abroad must endeavor to obey the laws of their host country. However, Nigeria will not accept its citizens being blackmailed or just tagged as criminals needlessly. And so the editorial is happening on government that this is a situation that government has to take at the highest level, perhaps from President Muhammadu Buhari to President Ramaphosa.
All right, Bayo, thank you very much for being around. Just one point, and then that's for people to remember, Nigerians in particular, that South Africa is a very violent country.
It is.
Very violent, no doubt about that.
I don't understand the hate for Nigerians, actually.
He has lived in South Africa, so you are hearing, as we say, from
Bayo
the South.
thank you for being around. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll get ahead with our conversations. 2 topics.
They are there at the crack of dawn. They are there busy preparing while we rise for our day. They are there silently, guarding, waiting, listening, and watching. They are there ready in the sky above and the waters below, in the blistering heat of the day, in the dead of night, willing, indefatigable, determined in the defense of the sovereignty of our country. They are our first line of defense and our last. They who have paid the ultimate price in defending us. They are fathers and uncles. They are mothers and sisters.